Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for passing the links on, Mia, and everyone else for joining us. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're all coming from tonight to tune into this, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and indeed any First Nations people that we may have with us tonight. A heads up, as I just said, we are recording this, so that may change the sort of questions you may wish to ask later on, or but just be mindful that we are recording and it is therefore being shared. And I know I don't really, for many of you here, have to introduce David because he's well known to us here at Trinity, and in fact, the last lecture he did face-to-face when he was the artist in residence here in August, we were all able to actually meet David. But for those who don't know David, I'm really happy to introduce him. And he's a friend of mine, number one, a good friend of mine. Number two, he's the head of the Intellectual Property School at the National University of Singapore. He holds a PhD and a Bachelor of Law and a Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Melbourne, as well as a Master of Law from Harvard University. David has pioneered courses in entertainment law, fashion law, freedom of speech, and the data protection. And he's actually delivered those different lectures and courses at universities all around the world as a visiting lecturer. He, as well as this, he's distinguished himself as a fine art and fashion photographer, which was really the topic of his last lecture. He's held exhibitions that have been sponsored by TAG, the watch company, as well as Versace. And his works appeared in Vanity Fair, Time, Harper's Bazaar, and Marie Claire. So tonight, David's going to entertain us and speak about NFTs, which is I'm sure you all do know, otherwise you probably wouldn't be tuning in, but non-fungible tokens and digital art, and whether or not actually buying any digital art is actually of the value that we actually think it might be when we actually go and purchase it. So please welcome Dave Tan, Professor David Tan.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And it's so great to be here online again. This wasn't a planned lecture, but when I was there in person in, I think it was July, some members of the audience had asked questions about NFTs. And I said, okay, I'll do a follow-up lecture. It's not going to be that long. I'll leave you time to ask questions. And I believe this is being recorded. And I suppose there are people who are interested to spend some money on NFTs. Whether you're too late to jump on the bandwagon or not, I would shed some light on the subject. It's great to see familiar faces like Mia. I think Bexy and Batu are around somewhere. Alice Robinson is there, and Elvin's there from the last lecture. So hello, everyone. I'll just share my slides and just make sure you can see. Yep, okay. So is it a case of meta hustlers in the metaverse looking for mega suckers out there who would spend money on NFTs? You might be familiar with some of the news reports about NFTs. In Singapore, people have made money with NFT trading cards, and elsewhere in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino wanted to auction scenes from Pulp Fiction as NFTs. He was then embroiled in copyright battle with the studio, because the studio said, we own copyright in a movie. He says, no, I also own copyright, so therefore I have a license to reproduce scenes as NFTs. So there's a chance that if you did not create that particular artwork to which your NFT signifies, you might be infringing copyright, and that is someone else's copyright. In Asia, In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai, one of the best-known Asian actors, also wanted to turn the footage into NFTs, and I think he made some good money with the auction. Vogue Singapore created an NFT collection in collaboration with Balmain, and NFT clothing, sort of wearable art, could get people to spend about $11 billion and even more as we move on in the next few years. So what's happening in the art world? The dot painting, some of you might recognize the painting, but not the artist. This is Damien Hirst. Damien Hirst is well known for the shark preserved in formaldehyde. It went for US $6 million at an auction. So he's one of the enfant terrible of the art world. What he's trying to do now is sell you NFTs of these dot paintings for US $2,000. So this was launched earlier in the year, and then he allowed the owners of these artwork to choose by summer of 2022, this was just last month, whether to keep the NFT, which you paid $2,000 for, or you trade it in for the physical canvas. So if you traded in your NFT, the prints will be delivered to you and the NFT destroyed. Alternatively, if you wanted the NFT, the art will be burnt in an exhibition. So this is a very interesting experiment where he wanted to find out whether people valued physical art more than NFTs. So just a bare majority of buyers, 51% opted to keep the physical art, while 48% opted for the NFTs. What he's then done is to exhibit the works this month, and he would burn each one piece a day until he sort of finishes burning all the physical editions, which people didn't want, that they wanted NFTs instead. So the metaverse economy would comprise NFTs. So some people would say the metaverse is just about games and immersive environments. NFTs are separate. It's a digital token elsewhere. So you could buy the digital token, the non-fungible token, without using it in a game or without using it in an immersive environment. So NFTs may not be a part of the metaverse economy, but they can also be a part of the metaverse economy if, for instance, you bought an NFT that points to a dress, and then the creator said, choose any game or any immersive environment like Second Life, and I would design that dress or give you the rights to use that dress on your avatar. So this is when an NFT can also enter into the metaverse. So generally, what people call the metaverse, you could shop there, you could interact there, you could have virtual coffee with people. 25% of people would spend at least an hour a day in the metaverse by 2026. And 30% of organizations worldwide will be selling products in the metaverse. Some of you might be playing certain games in the metaverse, like Fortnite, Animal Crossing, or Second Life. So what the metaverse really comprises is an interactive environment. It's almost three-dimensional in nature, and it is transnational. So it's very broadly, this is how big the metaverse is. You can get on the metaverse just to socialize, to chat, to co-create things with people, or to play very violent games. And it would include all these different games, as well as the use of cryptocurrencies, whether it's Bitcoins or Ethereums, to buy certain items on these different environments. And it would also include augmented reality when you put on your Oculus or the bodysuits. So the metaverse is a very big thing. And now let's look at the non-metaverse aspect. If you don't want to get to the metaverse yet, you simply want to buy NFTs. What are NFTs? What we see in the US is about 4,000 plus trademark applications by many different brands to register products in the metaverse. The USPTO is the United States Patents and Trademark Office. So that there's a big surge in the US as well as in China. 8,500 metaverse-related trademarks have been registered in China as of January 2022. And I suspect that number would have doubled in just the last 6 months. Why are all these brands rushing to register their trademarks? Because they see a lot of money to be made. Nike had started that by collaborating with Roblox with different Nike Land experiences. Metaverse-related trademarks would include downloadable virtual goods, retail stores, and for entertainment services. So a downloadable virtual good would include an NFT. So what some of these brands are doing, say Nike, for instance, is to have a foot in every conceivable business. So Nike could say, I want to simply issue NFTs of these fantastic shoes in very interesting materials, which exist only on the internet. So I can't make a real life version, but I could make a really unusual three-dimensional version, one of a kind, each one, and then there's an NFT, which I can auction off for thousands of dollars. Nike, so it then needs to register as trademark in Class 9 because the NFT is a downloadable virtual good. But at the same time, it could be part of a game experience or part of a pop-up store in the metaverse. So therefore, it's using the trademarks in many different ways, not just in the NFTs. And how do NFTs relate to art? So if you look at the most expensive works by living artists, there's this silly rabbit steel sculpture by Jeff Koons. It was auctioned for $91 million US. So that's the most expensive work by living artists. The second most expensive work is Every Days by Beeple. So I think many of you would have heard about this ridiculously priced work of art comprising 5,000 photos in a grid. And it was sold as an NFT for the equivalent of $69 million. So it was paid for using Ether, which is a cryptocurrency. And at that point in time, it's worth $69 million. So just a sidetrack, if you are buying NFTs, you have to pay with some form of cryptocurrency. Just go on Google to find out how Bitcoin had performed or other forms of cryptocurrencies. It fluctuates. I think you might have read about a little crash a few months ago with the cryptocurrencies. So let's say one Ether might be worth $1,000 US. If it spikes to 2,000, suddenly your NFT is worth a lot more. If it drops by half its value, your NFT is worth less. So this is a problem when you have an NFT and it is tied to a cryptocurrency. It's very different when you buy a physical artwork and you pay in money, in real money terms. It does not fluctuate as much. So you can read about the sterling pounds of depreciating against the US dollar or the Australian dollar. It doesn't move that much. It might move by 3%, 4%, unlike cryptocurrency, which could move by as much as 30, 40%. And then this is the image of the 5,000 little pictures, which are stitched together. So one of the best things about the NFT space, so this people being complimentary about NFTs, is everything is still in flux. So it means you can bypass some of the traditional art world structures like Sotheby's and Christie, and you can sell them on an open marketplace on the internet, like on OpenSea. So it's unregulated, bit of a cowboy town. Some people say that's a benefit because you do not lose commission to Christie's or Sotheby's or any of the auction houses. So it's unlike selling to an art gallery, which could take up as much as 50% commission. The benefit here for NFTs is that artists could keep most of the commission themselves by foregoing a third party in the transaction. Some of the lawyers ask, what really is the copyright here if you are trying to sell your NFT that is connected to a work? So what's going to prevent someone from minting an NFT that is derived from this Beeple project? So one of the initial issue is, what is the nature of the copyright? Is this thing that you see on the screen a single artistic work? Is it a compilation work of 5,000 photographs? So the compilation work is still one work as a compilation work, like a telephone directory. Or is it 5,000 distinct artistic works, 5,000 distinct photographs? And so for today, we don't really care about that, but I'm just telling you what keeps lawyers awake when they look at novel issues like this in NFTs or the metaverse. They start thinking, if someone copies a part of this and creates a new NFT, what copyright are they infringing exactly? What we do care about is the nature of fungibility. So a Bitcoin, you can't tell one Bitcoin from another. They're all sort of units of monetary exchange in the same way that Ether or the Australian dollar bill. So if I pay Mia $50, you don't really care which $50 note, as long as you've got $50. You might care if the note is torn, because then it loses its value, but as long as it's a $50 or it's 2 20s and a 10 or 10 5s, it's fungible. It just means they're interchangeable. NFTs are non-fungible because each one by themselves is unique. And that's why they command such a high value in the art market. So what people are trying to sell you in an NFT is a non-fungibility, that each token is unique. It is part of this particular blockchain, which I'll explain very shortly. How do you mint an NFT? I'll just go through this very quickly. And you can look this up on the internet. You first need to buy some Ether or Bitcoin, some sort of a cryptocurrency. There's a transaction fee to make your NFT. You need a particular wallet type of software. And if all this doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't matter. It's probably a good thing, because then you do not own NFTs. So just to make it clear, I am not fond of NFT because of the fluctuation in value, and because you're not really buying a physical thing. And also it can be stolen. So if you bought art, you can insure your art, you can have it in a gallery. If you buy an NFT, you house it in an online wallet, and people could hack into your wallet. So a friend of a friend has just lost his Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs. He's lost 2 tokens, and they're worth about $85,000 in total. He can't get them back because the hackers got in and then he's lost them. So I'll show you some screens on how do you create the NFTs. So you need to start with a JPEG file. So if you take a photo on your phone or computer, you can choose what format you want to store the photo. It could be a PNG or a JPEG. So you need to start with one of that, because it is an image. So whether it's a sculpture, a painting, or a piece of music, then that could be a WMV file. So let's say it's a visual file of some kind. You just need an electronic file, let's say a JPEG, and then you need an algorithm to create a hash. So the hash is simply a line of code. So I'm showing you how, if you look at the arrow, so from that particular image, you put it through an algorithm, it gives you 2 types of hashes. So you could choose a more comprehensive hash, which is the part in yellow, or you could have the part in green. So essentially, it's reducing your image to a line of code by the algorithm. And this is a unique line of code, and it's called a fingerprint. So going back to basics, your fingerprint is unique to every human individual. So in the same way, this particular line of code would be unique to that JPEG, that image that you decide is your art. And you need an algorithm to do that. Then after that, it gets more complicated. So what Beeple had done is to now describe his work. So I'll just read out some of the things he said about his painting. So he said, I made a picture from start to finish every single day from 1st of May, 2007 to 7 January 2021. This is every motherfucking one of those pictures. And he goes on and he describes. And all this is then reduced to code, right? Computer coding, which then you call that the metadata. So the earlier part is the work itself, where you get a line of code, and then all the description about your work of art also becomes a line of code. So now you have two lines of codes, right? So one, the original image, and one about description of the image. And you have now a chain called a hash chain. And then if you look at this picture, you have the original image, and then you have the metadata, and then it is now part of the Ethereum blockchain. So the Ethereum blockchain is something that I'll sort of make this really simple to understand. It exists on the internet. It is something that people can check in terms of ownership or contracts. You can enter into smart contracts. It all exists on this Ethereum blockchain. So you cannot have fake NFTs in that sense, because people can then check the provenance of who had created this particular NFT. So therefore, the metadata and the original work, everything is reduced to lines and lines of code on this blockchain. And then it is stored in something that sounds really fancy. It's called the interplanetary file system. And so this is in the web, in the cloud. So it's a special cloud, different from where sort of the iPhone stores its information. There are many kinds of cloud storage. So it's all stored up there, and it's a form of a peer-to-peer network system. Okay, so I will be sharing the slides later, so feel free, Michelle, to send them to anyone who wants them. And so there are these steps on how you create or mint an NFTs. It just sounds cool, in the same way that you mint a coin. That's how the term comes about. You create an NFT, you mint an NFT. So after you have all those codes, the line of codes, and you put it up on a blockchain, you need to set up a digital wallet, which is part 3, and then an NFT marketplace. So it's how we sell the things we don't want on eBay. Now we sell NFTs on OpenSea and other marketplaces. So it does replicate a bit of what we do with real life physical goods. eBay being a marketplace for real life goods, OpenSea being a marketplace for NFTs. And then you can choose how you want to sell your NFTs. You can set the price you want to sell it for. It can be an auction basis and so forth. Going back to step 1, this is always a cautionary note that you've got to ensure you own the IP rights, which is a trademark right or a copyright to what you want to sell. If you don't, someone can still mint an NFT, say, based on my photographs. So my photographs are freely available. You do a Google search, you find out David Tan photographs. You can go to my website and you do a screen capture, you have my photograph. You can then create NFTs of my photograph and then sell them and make money. But then I can come and stop you later and say, wait, hang on, this is copyright infringement. And one of the remedies for copyright infringement is account of profits. So I could make you pay me everything that you have made when you sold the NFTs of my photographs. So in theory, I can do that. In practice, I could probably never track down the person who's done it. That person could be in Nigeria, in the Czech Republic, in the US, in Melbourne. So it's always difficult to track down and even serve notice of infringement on the person who's infringed a copyright. And that's why there are many NFTs out there created by people who don't own copyright to the underlying music or artwork. Yeah, so just more of these for you to look at your own time. So there just a lot of diagrams out there to show people how to create and sell NFTs as well as buying NFTs. Don't try to read it on the screen, it's too small, but this is useful information for those who really want to take the risk and buy NFTs or create and sell them. So what are you getting into? So if you're buying or selling NFTs, you are getting a line of code. From what I've described earlier, the line of code really, it signifies the metadata, right? The description about the original work, as well as the original work being reduced to a hash. You bought tokens. So your non-fungible tokens, your unique lines of code are simply lines of code. You don't have the artwork. the artwork doesn't really exist because if I have a particular sculpture, I'll just stop share. So if I have a particular sculpture like this, one of the core sculpture, right? So I get this sculpture, assuming I've created the sculpture. And now I'm trying to sell NFTs on the sculpture. I'll take a photo of this. You don't have the sculpture, you have the photo of the sculpture. And then I said, well, this is a unique line of code with a photo of the sculpture, and I could still make the sculpture three-dimensional from a certain software, and it turns around in space. And then I sell that to you. So you've just gotten a line of code. I still keep the physical sculpture. I didn't sell you the sculpture. So if people are happy possessing lines of code, then fine, you pay 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 for your lines of code and potentially a Wikipedia entry. So the cynics amongst us would say you are paying for bragging rights, that you own something that's unique and you paid a lot of money for it. And if you paid enough money, like Beeple's artwork, you get a Wikipedia entry for being the person who bought $69 million worth of that particular NFT with cryptocurrency. Christie's, which have been going into this space, as well as Sotheby's, they do tell you to beware when you are buying your NFTs. So this sort of caveats or warnings may not appear in physical items that they sell, but they tend to appear in the NFT sales. For instance, the e-commerce conditions of sale in New York in March of 2021 says you acknowledge and agree that there are risks associated with purchasing and holding NFTs. By purchasing, holding, and using NFT, you acknowledge and assume all risks, including and not limited to risk of using accessory NFT, used to the loss of your private key, purchaser error, risk of mining attacks, risk of hacking and security weaknesses, risk of unfavorable regulatory intervention in one or more jurisdiction, risk related to token taxation, risk of personal information disclosure, risk of unanticipated risk, and so forth. So it just seems that you are buying an NFT really at your own risk of everything. And people are still paying money for that. Nike has then cashed in on this phenomenon where people are willing to pay money for NFTs despite all the risks. So if you go on Google and search for these metaverse shoes, you'll find that Nike's selling these fantastic looking sneakers, one of a kind, for more than US 100,000 for some of the very rare models on OpenSea. And the fashion brands, and I wrote a piece in the newspapers, are also going into the metaverse space by selling NFTs. And fashion brands, this is the one where I talk about in collaboration with Vogue, there's a flame dress. So you can't have a dress that's on fire, even in the Hunger Games, right? That's all special effects. That Katniss Everdeen's dress that caught on fire, special effects. You can't have that in real life. But what Balmain, the fashion designer, wanted to do is to say, well, I'm going to give you this fantasy dress in an NFT version that you can now use in a gaming app if you pay enough money for that. And you can even send in your own picture, and then the dress will be photoshopped onto your picture. So you can then show all your friends like, hey, look, I'm wearing a burning dress online. And so this is really brands cashing in on people's excitement or obsession with NFTs. Dolce & Gabbana managed to sell NFTs for record US 6 million. What they've also done is to say, if you buy one of these men's jackets, I did not get one, men's jackets or women's dresses, you can choose a particular game in which your avatar would wear this dress. And if the game allows it, they would recreate this dress for your avatar. And that's why you pay so much money, but it could only be used in one game. So the concept of the metaverse, where an avatar could say flow between different games or immersive environment, that cannot be done with this Dolce & Gabbana dress. So if you're in a game A, and then you say, I choose game A in which to wear the dress, and if your avatar goes into game B, it's the same avatar, you cannot bring the dress with you into game B because the licensing rights are not in place. Yeah, so the real world laws of intellectual property still steps in, despite sort of NFTs and the metaverse being seemingly sort of universal. Gucci's sort of doing the same thing, but then now with their videos. So it's not just images, but you can get snippets of a video. I think eventually singers would start cutting up their songs. Everyone owns 5 seconds of a particular song. I think that's just a phenomenon out there. Anything that can be tokenized, reduce the code, can be sold. Burberry's done it for games. And what I want to loop back to is the notion of copyright. If you don't own the copyright, just be very careful about using someone else's work that is still in copyright. So if you wanted to have Michelangelo's work or Leonardo da Vinci and create NFTs from that, you can, because they're out of copyright. But if you're using a living artist or an artist whose copyright still exists in the work, because copyright is life of the artist plus 70 years. So if you're looking at Charles Blackman, an Australian artist, or Arthur Boyd, the work is still in copyright. You cannot simply use those works and create NFTs. Ownership of the work, do remember, is separated from the ownership of copyright. So even though I bought a sculpture or a particular painting, I might own the work at home. I might decide I want to take a photo of the work I own and create an NFT. You're infringing copyright. Right? So remember, ownership of the work is separate from ownership of the copyright. You do not own the copyright to the physical artwork you own. And even when you have the NFTs, generally you cannot reproduce the work in print form to exhibit. So I'm just showing an example here where it's like, oh, okay, I own that particular painting. Unless it is clear in the sales agreement that I have the right of reproduction. So going back here, making copies or reproducing the work is part of a right of the copyright owner. And I might have the NFT, but I do not have the right to reproduce that to put it at home, to show my friends that I have spent thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in acquiring the NFT, unless you've got the licensing rights in the sales agreement of the NFT. Similarly, with a little sculpture, you may not see it there. If you own the NFT to the Burberry Blanco doll, it exists again only in the web. You cannot then say, I do a 3D printing of that and exhibit it as a sculpture at home. Not allowed. But with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's probably the most famous NFT in the world at the moment. They give you everything. And that's why they cost so damn much. So if you go to the website of BAYC, they tell you you own the NFT. When you purchase the NFT, you own everything, the ape, the art, completely. And it tells you that at no point would they cease, freeze, or modify the ownership of any of these Bored Ape. If you're trying to read this, don't. Just look at the parts in yellow. So Yuga Labs that created these NFTs grants you a worldwide royalty-free license to use, copy, and display the purchased art. So the diagram I showed you earlier about not doing a 3D printing, of an NFT or printing it on canvas to exhibit, you can do that with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It says you can do it for your own personal, non-commercial use. You can put it on a third-party website or application, meaning you can use it in any game, in any immersive environment, in Second Life, for instance. And you can even create derivative works based on the art. For instance, use of the art to produce and sell merchandise products, such as t-shirts. So this is the most generous terms of use of any NFT in existence, where they give you an unrestricted worldwide license to use the work. Most artwork that you purchase on Sotheby's and Christie's, the NFTs, or in OpenSea, do not give you such an extended licensing terms. Yeah, so if you're thinking of buying an NFT, read the terms very carefully. And they would be more generous the license, the more you're going to be paying for an NFT. So in summary, when you're buying NFT, it is on the blockchain. You just know for a fact that the purchase piece is authentic because you can track it back to the blockchain. But what the blockchain doesn't tell you is whether the NFT was minted by the copyright holder or with the permission of the copyright holder. So remember the very complicated slides with a lot of numbers, right? It simply tells you that the JPEG image is reduced to a line of code. The metadata, which is the description of the particular work, is a line of metadata. It is created by a certain person. It is on this blockchain. So it's authenticated insofar as those information. It doesn't tell you whether or not the person who minted it has the permission or is the copyright owner or is the original artist. It only grants you ownership of the NFT itself, whatever that means, right? The line of code. It doesn't assign to you a copyright license. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is a notable exception. And if you reproduce the work or you communicate the work publicly on the website, for instance, you will require permission from the original owner of the NFT. Again, this is just some teaser for you to Google. Anish Kapoor and David Bailey work had been taken by other people and sold as NFTs without their consent. So there's some lawsuits going on with these Stormtrooper helmets that's been repainted. So the owner of the Stormtrooper helmet, which gets copyright protection, for instance, are saying that you are now simply taking snapshots of the helmet and you don't have the permission to do that. So artists are fighting back against other alleged artists who are profiting from their works which get copyright protection. Read your terms of use. Even for the disposal or transfer. So some NFTs have restrictions on transfer of NFTs to others. Because the license for you to, for instance, reproduce the work could only be to the first purchaser and not to the subsequent purchaser. So lots and lots of legal conditions that you need to read before you buy something, even though it's cheap. So should you jump on the bandwagon, my second last slide, a lot out there, so please read very carefully. You can make a lot of money, or you can lose a lot of money very quickly. Often you join a community with excess benefit. So it's a bit like being part of the Australia Club or the Melbourne Club, except now the NFT gets you the membership into the club, where you could have access to the F1 suites, a physical suite, for instance. You get invited to very exclusive events. So NFTs now are being sold with these ancillary benefits, so that people now are buying a lot more than the tokens. They're buying almost like club benefits. David Gerard is a lot more cynical. You can read the book Attack of the 50-Foot Blockchain. He says, in other words, you only buy a certificate that says something is authentic, part of the blockchain, but you're not buying the work that's authenticated by it. You're simply buying the bragging rights. So that's one of the most vocal critics of NFTs, that they're simply meta hustlers out there looking for mega suckers who are willing to pay a lot of money for bragging rights. Yeah, so I'm happy to hear comments from you or questions.
Dave, I'll just get everyone on gallery view so that I can see if people put their hand up, or can you see?
Yeah, I can see everyone on gallery.
Sure. There we go, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. David, I'm pretty sure I know the answer from what you've said, but you've tended to talk mainly about unique works of art or unique items, but I take it you can produce a limited edition, like you could film a performance artist and sell that to 50,000 people or something like that.
Yes, you can. So you can have the same piece of work, but then with different NFTs. But then the value would then go down. So for instance, if I had one image, but limited edition of 100 NFTs, so each person would own a unique NFT, but then it's still the same piece of artwork. So that's less valuable than, say, if I did a particular photograph, but I sort of made it look like Andy Warhol with different colors, 100 different sort of painting different colors of what would I call it? Yeah, I'll just go, if you Warholize a painting 500 times by a particular computer program, your NFT is going to be more valuable than 500 NFTs of the same photograph.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can still do that. People might still pay for that. So it really depends on the fame of the person doing it. And sometimes it's just a cultural trend. So an Indonesian twit, cannot remember his name, he just sort of filmed himself doing silly things like brushing his teeth or standing in front of a mirror or eating. And he made a few $1 million. So people would buy NFTs of these ridiculous images of him going about his everyday life. And NFTs can also be cheap because you're really selling them in bulk and the cost is quite low. I'll just share a screen to show you what Sotheby's doing. So Sotheby's gone into the metaverse, they call it the metaverse. And if you go on the Sotheby's website, they said first collection of NFTs by this particular photographer. There are 5,000 unique photographs. And there are 5,000 NFTs, and you don't know which photograph you're getting. So you bid for the NFT, and then you're randomly allocated one of the photograph. I don't think you get the license that you can reproduce in the manner that a Bored Ape Yacht Club can, but it's quite cheap. It starts at $250. Yeah, so famous auction houses out there are really jumping on the trend. They can go cheap with $250, or they can do something like Beeples that went up to US 69 million.
And then
but people are willing to pay, and that's why you do get the auction houses doing this.
David, can you actually on-sell it? Or does the code?
It depends on the terms of sale. So I think with the auction houses you can. I think most NFTs you can on-sell. And I think that's the beauty of it, that you can make a profit, you can flip it quickly on OpenSea, and that's why people buy them.
So but what you do is somehow give that code back for someone to sell. Or you pass that.
Yeah. So you have the line of code because it's a unique line of code, and it just keeps changing hands,
right?
Depending on who wants to pay. On OpenSea, for instance, I know someone in Singapore had really random pictures. So he did OnlyFans, which is sort of a semi-porn site, and he was arrested in Singapore for peddling pornography. Well, in most countries, it's okay, if you're on OnlyFans, you just make some money. People pay a fee to subscribe, and then they see you in various stages of undress. And then this guy had done it, and then someone reported him, and then Singapore police said, wait, hang on, that's porn. It still hadn't been resolved in court, but what he had done, because there's so much publicity about him being arrested, that he decided to sell NFTs of himself. He wasn't naked, but then it's just very random NFTs of selfies. And he made money. And then, so I interviewed him, and he said on OpenSea, he tracks the value of each NFT and how often it's changed hands.
Right.
Yeah. So the original creator can track the sale of his or her own NFTs too.
Can I ask you a question, David?
Sure, Mia.
Okay, so literally during this conversation, I was texting my boyfriend. He's like, I actually tried to buy one once, but I transferred the money to the wrong account and I just didn't get it. So I feel like, and I was like, okay, that's something else to know about you now. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you then is like, because obviously if you transfer money in a normal banking account to the wrong place, can you get that back normally? Like you can, can't you? In normal banking, I should know this, but I don't.
Oh, it's very difficult to get it back because you have to prove fraud.
Yeah.
And then it's also problematic if the other bank account it's not with the same bank.
Yeah.
So for instance, if you have A and Z and that other bank is somewhere in Ukraine, all right, and then the money goes over, is instantaneous wire transfer, they take it out of the account, and then you can't get it back anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
So
that's
even a normal bank transfer, no.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I was like, well, I can imagine it would be basically impossible to get it back. Because like even like in modern media, sometimes in TV shows now, like there'll be an episode where like they've tried to like find cryptocurrency, and then they like forget about it, and 10 years later, like, oh, I have all this cryptocurrency, but it turns out someone like mined it off them. So I feel like one of the big difficulties and the reasons why like lots of people like my father or people I've talked to are like concerned about it is because of the lack of security, which you've pointed out. Do you think what sort of steps do you think would be important to put in place to try and in some way regulate it? Like, do you think there should be an overarching body, like for something like, what was it called, OpenSea? Do you think OpenSea should have some sort of regulatory like?
Well, it's problematic because it is transnational, and so I think you can have regulation, but because there isn't an intermediary that holds the money, so let's say eBay, for instance, like the payments through PayPal, and then there are conditions there where PayPal holds the money for a while, and then there's a dispute, then there's a reversal mechanism. So these more traditional online marketplaces like eBay or Amazon, it's built in. And that's why for NFTs, they want to get out of this regulated environment. So everything is more immediate. Others would say it's the brighter version of the dark web, if I may use that term. Others would call that interplanetary file system. It's really storing information on the dark web. It's really to escape regulation. And I think looking at the nature of politics, it's also difficult in each country to determine which government department is going to regulate that. Is it going to be under finance? Because then you're regulating the Bitcoins, the cryptocurrencies, and they're already looking into that in many countries. But the NFT is not a cryptocurrency, right? So it doesn't fall under the Ministry of Finance or the Department of Finance or Treasury. It doesn't fall under intellectual property because it's a line of code. It's not privacy and data protection. So it really, there is no governmental body that would suitably regulate an NFT. So that's another problem.
Do you think there's like a gap in the market then for some company to start up and say, I know like the whole point is it is meant to be not really regulated, but do you think there's a gap in the market then for a company to come in and say there is a transitional period so it is more secure? Like, do you think something like that would ever happen?
Oh yeah, so I think some marketplaces would claim to be more secure than others. I haven't looked at OpenSea sufficiently, but I think it's one of the more trusted marketplaces compared to others. And I think increasingly these more trusted marketplaces would take a higher commission from any sale compared to the newer sort of online marketplaces, which makes sense, right? So if there's safer environment, you would charge a premium for the services on your marketplace.
Yeah, no, thank you, David. That was great. That answered my question.
Sure. Anyone has crypto? Does anyone own an NFT? No, thinking of getting one?
I've looked into it for the college because I had this idea.
I was about to suggest to Scotty. This is something I suggested to a theatre company. So I just shot the principal leads for the LKY musical based on Lee Kuan Yew. If you Google LKY musical David Tan, you'll see my photos. So I suggested having this couple Warholized. So you create 100 NFTs, but then in like Marilyn Monroe style with the Andy Warhol colors, raising money for the theater company with 100 NFTs. And I'm sure people would own that, but they couldn't get their act together and they just missed out the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I thought it could be cool. I was like talking about it with my dad, and I was like, maybe the NFT could be like proof of the year you're at Trinity College or something, and it's kind of like an alumni thing. But there's a few different things.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So I think with a college community like Trinity, is a great fundraising opportunity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I also thought that
you can make it really rare because it's 150 years. I don't know people are still alive in which year, but you could always have 150 NFTs, one signifying each year, and then having people bid for it.
Yeah.
And when the colors are different for these 150, it's still the fleur-de-lis crest, but then you Warholize each crest and make it unique. So in some years, people might pay 50,000. In a particular year, someone might be tight ass and pay $500.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a great chance for that.
Yeah, well, it's a pity Ken just left. I've been too scared to ask people about it, but I was like, it could be an interesting idea.
I think it's a great idea, Mia. Any of these new innovative ideas to raise money, I'm all for.
Yep. No, never a bad thing, having a bit more of money.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Joe, Albert, what else can I see? Charlie?
Yeah, so I think if you look through the slides carefully, you know, there are many hyperlinks in the slides, and yeah, I urge you to read up more. I'm not saying never buy an NFT, just buy it with your eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And read the terms of conditions very, very carefully.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. So thank you very much, David. I don't think there's any more questions. I don't want to cut anyone off if there is. David, thanks very much again.
My pleasure.
Very entertaining. It's a new world for me, probably for a lot of people actually, but I do find it very interesting. And you have that incredible ability to actually simplify it. And I do feel I'm walking away thinking I know a lot more than I did when I walked in.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Have a great evening.